sideways on the screen because I tend to start doing that halfway through the class. Oh, lovely to see you all. Some people, did anybody come to my first session a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, you did, didn't you? Great. Lovely to see you again anyway. Okay, so if we're going to start seated, so if you can just make yourself a bit comfortable as you are for about 10 minutes, and then I just wanted to kind of give a little introduction this week on the subject, which is consciousness, and just sort of set you up for how we might apply that theme to a yoga practice. Because in some senses, obviously the word consciousness, we might think about that as being specifically a Buddhist teaching. But of course, the yoga, the Buddhist teachings come originally from yoga, the 8 limbs, Patanjali's yoga, and the yoga practice anyway. So we have those links where the two teachings do come together. So I thought I'd just cover some of that this morning because I find it really interesting. And yeah, good. I hope you do too. So just be comfortable and treat this start as a settling down and a way of focusing. So the teachings of yoga come from, obviously they were, word of mouth teachings many centuries ago. But let's cut all that bit out and come down to a person who is possibly a myth, we don't know, or possibly a real person called Patanjali, who synthesized the many teachings of yoga practice that came from the Vedas, the Indian scriptures, the scriptures of the Vedic faith. And they were all sorts of scriptures around yoga being a practice which was involving action, right action, yoga being a practice involving analyzing and sort of looking at the self. Another was a practice around service to others. Bhakti yoga was about devotion through mantra, etc. None of those practices involved physical postures. None whatsoever. And the cave drawings that were found in the Indus Valley, which is where the Hindu comes from, Indus, it's the Indus River, where they were found there, were only of people sitting, very rough drawings of people sitting in this kind of pose, in a cross-legged or a lotus or half lotus kind of position. And that sort of suggested that yoga originally was a meditational practice, purely a meditational practice. So all this posture stuff has come much later, and it has developed into become a very physical practice in our culture. As you all know, most classes that you go to just touch on the physical, maybe a bit of breathing, and that's about it. You might not get any sense of it being meditational. Some do, some don't. But the physical has become the most important aspect of a yoga practice in the West, which, I mean, has its fors and against, really, because it does bring people in eventually. Anyway, going back to Patanjali, he set up this system known as the 8 limbs, which is where we get our name Ashtanga from. Ashtanga means 8 limbs. So Ashtanga yoga has come from those teachings as well. But then again, that has become a totally physical practice where you go through a sequence of postures and follow on. Maybe some of you have done Ashtanga. It's very vigorous, very strong, and amazing practice. Not for everybody. And so these 8 limbs, these original 8 limbs involved, first off, social ethics is how we are in the world. Secondly, personal ethics, how we are with ourselves. And then the postures, asana, came next. And then after that came pranayama, which is the breathing practices. And then following that was something called pratyahara, which is withdrawing the senses. And then from there you had 2 stages of contemplation, if you like. The first one, concentration, and the second one, meditation. And then finally, the end, which is not the last number 8, was not exactly a practice. It was what occurred having taken these other 7. And that's samadhi in Buddhist terms, it's known as nirvana. It's a kind of equivalent, or consciousness, pure consciousness. So there was this kind of practice set up, a journey where we went through all these different stages to reach pure consciousness. Yeah, and they kind of practice, it's almost like they're not a hierarchy, they're practiced all together. So in a true yoga practice, one should involve all of those steps. So we kind of set up the first two, known as yama and niyama, which is our way of being in the world and our personal ethics, are all to do with contentment and ahimsa, non-harming, and those kind of things, which we kind of do anyway. But we can also apply those in a yoga practice. So how are we, when we're going through our poses, how are we with our bodies? Are we pushing our bodies hard into something and not being kind? Are we finding a place where we can be content with how we are today? You can apply all those things to a yoga practice if you want to. And then you've got the postures themselves. And they are meant to develop, because the word itself, asana, means to sit or remain or be. It has the word root as, which is to sit, remain or be. And they are about enabling the body to sit comfortably in this final yoga pose, where we sit normally cross-legged, hands resting maybe with a mudra or something. So the body is quiet and comfortable. All those aches and pains and things which you may be feeling now because we've not done anything, they're possibly, you can put those to one side. And then we start going through the breathing practices, which then link the body and the mind together, and then the withdrawing of the senses. So the senses are no longer reaching out to hook on to something to see or hear or taste or feel or whatever. And then we develop the ability to actually rest within our own selves. And I have a quote here from Eckhart Tolle. No, this is not, that's the one I'm going to do at the end. I've got several quotes for today. Find the place which is effortlessly at rest within itself. Be there, be one with that. And that's anonymous. I don't know. I went through I got a massive collection of different things like that. And that one doesn't have a name on it, it's anonymous. So find the place which is effortlessly at rest within itself. Be there and be one with that. And that is the aim of a yoga practice. If we can find that at the end, then we can say we have truly practiced yoga. So we might go through many different ways of moving the body in that time or working with the breath. But within those two, it's that finding that place effortlessly at rest, even when you're in a pose. So if that was a headstand, it was like, I'm not doing a headstand. It's like I'm resting within a headstand, or I'm resting within Shavasana, the relaxation pose, or I'm resting within the pose that we're in right now. So it's that finding constantly that resting within, because when you come into that place, then we are enabled to sort of sit within that place of pure consciousness, because what pure consciousness is, and I mean all the scriptures and everything will give you all this stuff about enlightenment and all the sort of maybe reaching towards some big experience, and it's not, to me, it's that ability to just be within my own self, observing this coming and going and fluctuating of everything around me and not being disturbed by that. And the very first chapter 1 of the sutras, chapter 1 verse 1 and verse 2, Sutra 1 and Sutra 2. The first says, now here I'm going to tell you what yoga is. And then the second one, yoga is the ability to still the fluctuations of the mind, Chittavritti Nirodha. And that is simply, it says right on chapter 1, and it goes on to tell you through many pages how to achieve that. Yoga is the ability to still the fluctuations of the mind, because it is those that disturb and take us away from this state of pure consciousness, of just being, here I am, taking a breath, alive, here I am, another moment of life. So That's it in a nutshell. The sutras, in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's start just for a moment. Let's close the eyes and just, absorb all those words, and maybe they came out as a bit of a jumble. I tend to go and start to speak and I've got an idea and then I go off tangents and stuff like that. So some of it will gel and some of it maybe not may not sort of sit with you so well this morning. Don't worry about any of that. Just sit within your own being. Feel how comfortable that is or not, just to start with. And then we'll work towards making it more comfortable. So we start from exactly where we are now, with all the sort of stuff that we bring with us. Maybe that wasn't a good night's sleep. Maybe it was, something that happened this morning early that has disturbed you, interaction with somebody, or something from yesterday that you're bringing in, or something that you might be anticipating later on in the day that you're sort of looking towards. So this is what these fluctuations of the mind are. They're taking us either into the past or into the future, when the mind is still and quiet, resting just on what is now. Then we are present, and that present is the gift of consciousness. And the breath, you're just feeling the breath, just noticing the breath. It might be short, it might be irregular. Don't worry, we'll do some stuff to bring that into just a reasonably slow and rhythmical pattern. If you're used to yoga breathing, you might just sink into that straight away. And when we become, when the breath is regular, then the heartbeat starts to sort of regulate itself more too. Our parasympathetic nervous system switches on and we start to rest a little more. The mind gets a bit quieter. There will be still thoughts there. Never a question of pushing those thoughts off the perimeter. It's just leave them where they are. They are just the clouds in the sky that pass over the sun, temporarily obliterating it, but not removing it. So we're going to take a practice today which is based on the Viniyoga tradition. Maybe you've done some Viniyoga in its time, and one of the main aspects of that is we work rhythmically with the breath. And I just want you to, as you're sitting here, just start to feel that you might be able to do that just with your arms. So let the hands come down to the floor and continue with your lovely rhythmical breathing. And then just when your next breath in starts to flow, bring the arms up at the same time and keep that breath moving the arms up. And then maybe they come above the head, but you're not reaching anywhere. And then as the breath out starts, lower the arms back to the floor beside you. And then just see how easy it is to connect that breath and movement. And how the mind just loves to sit on that flow. The breath in brings the arms up. There's a tiny pause at the top of the breath because it needs to change over to the out breath. Let it do that, let there be a pause. And then there's a tiny pause when the hands are back to the floor. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be doing all the way through this practice. There'll be little breaks in between, but on the whole, you'll be moving the body in tune with your breath. So I'd like you now to just come and stretch your legs out and just for a moment, give them a break. Shake off the ankles, circle the ankles, bounce the knees, and just let the legs wake up from having been folded for, oh, actually, that was quite a long time. You sat there. And then we're going to come up to kneeling and start to bring those arms into what we were doing just now, raising and lowering. So knees, I suggest, have something underneath them, keep them nice and comfortable, because you will be kneeling for a little while. If you're not comfortable kneeling at all, then you could do this standing, although we would be standing up next anyway, but you could do these forward bend standing. So just come with your knees beneath your hips and take a breath out and find this new pose. Just check your lower back isn't arching too much with the effort of keeping upright. So keep nice and free. And then we will do just what we were doing just now. We'll do something slightly different with the arms. We'll raise them forwards this time. So again, the breath in is going to float the arms up. The breath out is going to float the arms down. Now I suggest just varying that. So the second time, let the arms come out to the side, turn the palms up. So the arms are getting a little bit more work. And then turn the palms down as you breathe out. So alternate those two movements. The breath in brings the arms up forward. The breath out lowers the arms forward. The breath in turns the palms, raises the arms sideways. The breath out turns the palms and lowers the arms sideways. So on your own a few more times. And start to feel that this breath is not only the breath that's coming into your body, but it is that energy and air and prana and everything that's in the space around you. And it's that's moving the arms and like an air current, that you know how birds catch the air current. So you've got that air current, and when you bring the arms down, feel like your arms are moving through something rather than just moving through an absence. Because believe me, it might look like there's nothing around us, but this space is filled with, it's filled with light, it's filled with energy, it's filled with all that stuff that you need to live by. So connecting yourself to the outer. With your hands, feel the hands as they come up, the tips of the fingers reaching out, the tips of the fingers reaching out as the arms lower. So you're making a big shape, expanding your body into this space and consciousness, becoming more conscious of your connection to what is around you. And then next time you lower the arms, leave the arms down by the side. Let the shoulders relax. Feel your hands. And start to connect a little bit to your feet as well. So the feet are out behind you. There's something behind you, something in front of you, something around you. And then we're going to move into that space in a different way. You might like to watch this first. You're going to breathe in and bring the arms up. And then as you exhale, fold the arms around onto your back and sit back towards your heels if that's comfortable. Bring your forehead down to the floor and rest back in that place. And then as you breathe in next, you're going to lift the breastbone and come up with your wings, your arms extended, bring them all the way round. And then exhale and lower the hands. So they're coming up frontwards. They're going sweeping around as you fold over. They're coming up sideways to bring you up. And then they're coming back to the sides of the body. I'll talk you through a couple and then leave you on your own. So let's all begin at the same time. I'm not checking on screen. I mean, I can see you all on screen, but some of you, four of you are without video anyway. So I'm leaving you to follow the practice, developing your listening skills. So having breathed out, let the breath in float your arms skywards. And then folding over, breathing out, sweeping the arms around onto your back. Grasp one hand so the shoulders can fall forward and you come into that resting state that we talked about earlier. And then let the breath lift the breastbone, sweep the arms out to the side, they're your wings to bring you back up. And then lowering the arms on the exhale. So the breath in begins, then the movement follows. The movement stops, the breath is fully in. The breath out starts, the movement follows. The movement completes, and then the breath out, fully out. Breathe out completely. Go on your own now a couple more times. And constantly moving from this state of, you know, the sort of waking up state with the breath in, which moves your body into the shape, and then the coming quietly to rest back fully into your center, having breathed out completely. Find that difference between the two aspects of the breath. That breath in, which expands your consciousness into space, and the breath out, which draws your consciousness back into the center of your own being. And next time your hands have come down, take a moment, take a breath. And then tuck your toes under and bring your hands to the floor. And just for a moment, sit back to the toes. We start to wake the feet up. And in this position, have a sense of the hands and the feet. And you've got like 4 limbs, if you like, 4 legs, 4 points of reference into the earth. You're going to be coming up into a forward bend in a moment, but it's really nice to just wake the feet up. Just wake the feet up, stretching out the toes a little bit. Maybe a few of you would be able to come over into a bit of a squat and then to roll the feet, knees back to the floor. Not everybody's cup of tea this time of the morning. Rolling through the feet, bringing the knees down. If that's too much for your knees or your toes, then just stay working with the hands on the floor in a sort of semi-modified squat. If you are able to go into the squat and then roll over again, then do that a few more times and really try and open up the spaces between the foot and the toe, that gap underneath. And then with the toes nicely tucked under, have the hands forward and just lift the knees. So you're kind of halfway between dog and forward bend with the hands. And just walk the backs of the legs, opening out the backs of the knees, waking up the feet, getting really in touch with the soles of your feet. moving the hands in towards the feet, into a full forward bend, or hands on the legs if you're, or hands on something, on the seat of a chair or pile of blocks, cushions, whatever, if your back and hamstrings are not too happy with full forward bends. And again, rocking on the feet, really waking up, becoming very conscious of the soles of your feet and the connection they have with the earth. And then squaring your feet up. You've got the eyes open, you're looking down to your feet, you're welcoming that part of your body into the next part of the practice. And the weight is spreading evenly over both feet, over the soles of each foot, heels too, toes spreading out as much as they can. And then on a breath out, let the weight go down through the feet. And then inhaling, coming up to standing slowly. Keep the chin on the chest until you are fully upright, spine is fully upright. And then let the head lift. And coming into mountain pose. And then let's just have some thoughts about our posture. So we've been seated, we've been kneeling, we've had half an hour in those two positions. You may have just come and stood up and you're in your habit way of standing. So I like to check out before we move on to do any sort of standing flowing work, that you've got a lengthened spine, you've got weight over both feet, and you've got a kind of symmetry to the shape you're in. So you can do this with the eyes closed, nothing to look at on the screen particularly, and just start to feel through your feet. We really connect your feet and connect your hands to your feet in your mind. So as your toes are spreading out and your feet are spreading out, so your hands are doing something similar. And you could even turn the palms down as though they were another pair of feet. So you've got an idea that the palms are touching something, touching substance. It's a very fine substance. I mean, you can compare that in your mind, the substance of your mat. If you're barefoot, you will feel texture of your mat or your carpet that you're on. Feel what that's like, the temperature, the texture of it, the sort of hard or soft. Does it feel giving? Can you rest more into it? And then your hands, what are your hands doing? Making the shape of a pair of feet at the sides of your body. Don't stress the wrists out, mind. Just keep the wrists nice and soft, but you're just turning the hands in that same foot-like direction with the fingers pointing forward and feeling the substance through the palms that they're connecting with. There's actually something there that moves away as you draw your hands down towards your feet. And what happens to the shoulders and the back of the neck? And then connecting your face and your head into this as well. So feet, hands, and head area. So does the head lengthen through the back of the neck? So you stand a little taller as you ground through the hands and the feet. And it's not a rigid place. There's still movement. There's still a sense of the body adjusting. It's not trying to fix in any way whatsoever. And then let the hands release. So let the hands release. And maybe just circle the wrists a little bit. Release the wrists if you've been not too kind with you. This is how we apply the ahimsa in the yamas and niyamas, you know, this non-violence. How we, sometimes even in our yoga practice, we can really want to get somewhere. You know, we push our bodies into a shape or a position or an idea that we want to achieve. And it's always finding that place where even we're just turning the hands in that way. Are we being kind to the wrists there? Can we be a little kinder to the wrist, but still explore the idea that's being presented to us? And that changes everything. This is how you develop the consciousness through a yoga practice rather than just doing poses. And then coming on to the long ways of your mat. Funny work. Anyway, kind of towards the back a bit, so facing along your mat. And just as we did when we were kneeling, we're going to do similar to work our bodies through a standing forward bend. So let's start by checking that your knees are not locked, checking that your feet are squared up beneath the hips, that the lower back, you can just rest your hand for a moment front and back and just feel that, okay, core muscles are gently lifting, lower back is gently releasing. Checking that the breastbone is lifting, checking that the head is lifted, back of the neck is long. You can do this with the hands, just placing the hands on the breastbone, placing one hand at the back of the neck, just checking your spine is aligned and coming back to that feeling. So before you move, feel into that new way of standing. There are micro adjustments perhaps. And some of it might feel in this way of adjusting, it might feel a bit strange. You know, if you're used to arching the lower back or turning one foot out or tensing your shoulders, it might feel like, well, this doesn't feel right, but explore it. Maybe this is a kinder way to stand. And then as we did before, inhaling, raising the arms forward, exhaling, lowering them. And the key to this is not a shape, it's the feeling. Raising the arms sideways, turning the palms, lowering the arms with the breath out, just as you did when you were kneeling. That same, very familiar now, sequence of breath and movement. And it's really comforting for the mind. There is a little bit to think about, you know, once you've got used to the breathing in as you raise the arms, breathing out as you lower them, the mind doesn't have to go, oh, what am I doing when? The mind can just rest on that rhythm. An even flow of breath. And then taking that a step further, as we did when we were kneeling, breathing in and raising the arms, bending the knees, exhaling completely, folding the arms onto the back, sweeping them around, letting the head come down towards the knees, letting the body rest on the thighs so the knees are bent. And then starting to lift the body off the thighs as you inhale, sweep the arms out, pair of wings, bring them back up. And this time go straight down again, rather than keep on lowering. So you're just going to keep on going into the forward bend, lifting yourself out of the forward bend as the breath in flows, and down again. Find your rhythm of breathing. Have a point where you really relax into the center once you're folded over the legs. Use your breastbone to bring strength into the lifting back up flying up into standing upright again. And feel the difference between the two. The breath in, expanding you, expanding your consciousness into the space around you. The breath out, drawing your consciousness into the depths of your own being. And let it rest there. Put a little pause after that breath out where you just rest in that center place. And work slowly with the breath. No quick movements, please. Just slow it down, slow it down. There's nowhere to go. Nothing to get done. No particular number to do to get to a point where you then stop and do something different. And it's just flowing through, developing the ability to bring this way of movement and practice into a daily life. So this is a preparation for other repetitive movements that you do in a day, and we do lots of them. Simple things like peeling potatoes, you know, cleaning windows, painting walls, digging the ground. You can think of many, many examples where we spend a long time doing a repetitive, simple movement. And it's looking at, well, what's my mind doing when I'm doing those movements? Can I turn this into a moving meditation? Which is what this kind of practice is about. Okay, so next time you are upright with the arms above your head, just leave them there for a moment and just have a little play around with reaching up through one arm, reaching up through the other arm. Just to really lengthen the spine. And then let your hands flow down. And then take a step forward with your right foot. And your left foot is sort of 5 to 11, or 11 o'clock, 11 on the clock. It's slightly turned outwards. And just check that when you bend your knee, your right knee, that the knee will follow a path over the foot. And if it prefers to sort of roll inwards, then just have a little conversation with it and see if you can encourage the foot to guide the pressure through the foot to guide the knee so that it follows a path directly over the toes. You might need to take a wider stride to do that. You might need to have the legs further apart. You might need to put more pressure onto the outer edge of the foot itself. You might need to lift the left heel slightly. So there's all different things you can do, but it's really kind of on the sacrum, actually, if you can keep the sacrum facing forward and keep the knee in its tracking place, much kinder to the knee as well, that it doesn't start to swivel anywhere. And when you've done that, settle into that pose, find your weight over both feet, hips facing forward, shoulders loose. And again, connect your hands and your feet and your face, your head, with the whole shape. Bit of a balance here, a little bit of a balance. Find that balance so you've got more or less equal effort with both legs and a lovely free upper body. And then breathing in, bring up the arms. And breathing out, fold over the front leg, sweeping the arms behind you. Very familiar position now. And then find your balance, bend the knee, lift the breastbone, Sweep the arms up, you're in a warrior pose. And then exhale and straighten the front leg and bring the arms down. So breath in, you can bend the front knee if you want to, lift the arms, straighten the front leg, breathing out. Doesn't have to be lock straight, but just a little straighter than it was. Head towards that right knee, bend the knee, bring the arms up sideways, exhale, lower the arms. Once more, connect the breath to the movement as you've been doing so well. Movement, breath begins, movement follows. Breath in full, folding over, exhaling. Resting the hands on the back, let the head rest towards the knee. And then turning around when you've next lowered your arms, so you're in a wide leg forward bend. Just stand in this position for a moment before we move to the second side. So wide legs, find your feet, find your hands, and find the connection between the two. Find the top of the head, find your long spine joining everything together. And maybe for a moment, just bring the arms up to shoulder height. And just check that as you do that, that the shoulders are not lifted to the ears, that they're in a soft, soft place, even though the arms are supported. And see if you can let your arms rest on the air that's supporting them, whilst you just softly breathe. And notice if the breath changes, can you keep that flow? Now you're not actually moving, so can that flow of equal breath in and out still be there? Connecting the hands to the feet, to the top of the head, expanding into space. And then if you need to bring the arms down, let them. And then just give your shoulders a little bit of a releasing roll with the head joining in too. And walk your feet in and give your hips a little bit of a, if you need to. If you don't, then don't worry, just come. So I'm turning around because it's, you're going to have the left foot forward now. I'm facing the other way because it's easier for the camera. And your right foot will be behind you at 5 past the hour. And your left foot now needs to check whether that can follow the path over the knee over the foot rather, sorry. And what happens to the back heel? Find your balance between the two, just as you did with the other leg forward. Hips facing over the front leg. And then find your place there for a moment. The leg is soft front knee, soft back knee, never locking knees at all. The knees hate being locked. Be kind to your knees. And then breathing in, bringing the arms up, forwards. Breathing out, folding over the front leg, head towards the knee. Breathing in, bending the front knee, a little bit of a balance here, bending the front knee. Sweeping the arms around into warrior. Exhaling, straightening the leg, lowering the arms. Inhaling, bend the front knee, bring the arms up. Exhaling, fold over the front leg. Sweep the arms around. Have that little rest period where the shoulders just drop forward. Take one hand so the hands are supported. And then bending the front leg. Sweep the arms around. And then exhaling back to the starting position. A couple more times on your own. Breath in, expanding your consciousness into space, a big shape. Breath out, bringing your consciousness back to your center. Deep place. And then when you have, and if you haven't, you're still carrying on, then turning around again into the wide leg. Connecting your feet and your hands and the top of your head into this shape. And then folding over into the wide leg forward bend. If the palms can come to the floor, let them. Otherwise, put them onto blocks or something, or even onto the surface of a chair or stool. And have a moment here where you just work into your hips. Dropping, bending one knee, dropping into one hip, bending the other, dropping into the other. Remembering too that our practice is about developing the ability to sit, to remain, to be, to stay. And hips are, they're the main part of that, enabling us to sit cross-legged, especially in our Western culture, which is where we don't do that as a daily thing. We sit on chairs. So it might be that you want to always put these kind of things into your practice to aid your meditation posture. And then coming from that wide leg into a downward dog. Just find your way around into a downward dog in a nice, easy way. Connect your hands and your feet in this pose with the top of the head, with the face, relaxed face. Try releasing the hips by bringing one leg up and bringing that leg over the back of the body. Getting an inversion here as well, with the head lower than the heart. Try walking the backs of the legs, try bending the knees, try doing anything you like which will enable a sense more freedom, as well as balancing the weight over your hands and feet. So for a moment, we're in a still, quiet place with just soft breathing. You would distribute your weight around onto one hand, one foot, one hand, foot on one side, opposite hand, foot, all four. Play around with how you can just micro movement balance out your pose here, whilst keeping the neck loose, the face relaxed, jaw loose, eyes soft. And then carefully drop your knees down. So you're on all fours with the toes tucked under. Take a moment here. And then bring your forearms down to the floor. Toes still tucked under. Elbows more or less beneath your shoulders. Hands can link slightly or place one on top of the other. We're just going to do a forearm dog. It's quite a nice way to work our way down to the floor and give you another sense of inversion without doing a full shoulder stand or headstand type pose in your practice. It gives you that idea of, you know, strength and balance as well as the inversion all combined. So just for a moment, feel your weight going down through your elbows. Toes are tucked under, and then let the knees just lift off the floor. Legs don't have to be straight. Keep the neck loose. Keep the face soft. Keep the breath flowing if you can. And don't stay too long. Drop back down. Drop the knees back down. Let the head stay down towards the floor. Relax your shoulders. And then take it a second or third time in your own time. This arm position, sometimes people like to have their hands parallel and elbows parallel. That actually makes it harder. And if you can, keep the elbows beneath the shoulders. That's I find the easiest way. Do what you feel is right for you with your hands. Having them in, one on top of the other, is fine. I like to do it with my hands on the edges sometimes too. That's quite a nice way, parallel hands on their edges. I find that quite opening for the shoulders and very sustainable pose. I can kind of hang in there for a good few breaths. But it's also individual, you know. What suits one person may not suit another. So it's really up to you to, especially on Zoom practices, to, you know, to really be aware of what your body is telling you. And if it's saying, I really don't like what I'm doing, then either find a way to apply the same posture to your body or adapt it somehow slightly, or just do less of it. Have little bite-sized goes. And then when you have come back down, then coming around onto your backs. With the knees bent, soles of the feet squared up onto the floor, in line with your hips. And just for a moment, a little bit of a rest. Let the palms turn up. Relax the face, relax the eyes. Eyes can be softly open. Jaw loose. And then turning your palms down. We're going to build up another sequence here, which involves half bridge and the lying twist. And we'll build it like Lego, really. We'll start in small pieces, bring it in together until we have a full sequence flowing with the breath to work with. So just start by feeling the sort of lower back area, which might have a bit of an arch in it. Not asking you to pull the back to the floor or anything, just to find your spine. And we're just going to begin with some simple pelvic rocking. So just in your mind, find that area from the ribs down to the tailbone. And then as you breathe in, let the back arch a little bit. Stays on the floor, but arching. So the tailbone stays on the floor. You're not doing a back bend yet. You're just arching the lower back as you breathe in. And then breathing out and drawing the lower back down to the mat. And then arching the lower back again, breath in. And breathing out and drawing the back down on the exhale. And be kind with this. It's not a matter of, trying to pull all the muscles in really tight and hard. It's more about finding a natural flow. And then stop the doing of that. And just let the breath very slightly, you'll find the breath will be just moving the spine in that way. Just because the muscles involved in breathing will slightly pull the spine forward as you breathe in and release the spine backwards as you exhale. That's what happens naturally, especially if your breath is allowed to go deep into the body. You come away from that shallow upper body breathing. Okay, so we're now going to put that rhythm into a half bridge. So the breath in will slightly arch the spine. The breath out, you may well find that it takes the feet more heavily into the floor. And then from there, the next breath in will help you lift your back into a half bridge and roll your spine up. And your chin, which is dead central, will tuck more down towards your throat. So you get a long back of neck. And then your breath out, you can roll your spine down and feel your way through those often very tight lower back muscles, placing each vertebra onto the mat. And then the spine adjusts on the next breath in, it slightly arches. And then the breath out happens and you start to feel the hips getting light and you begin to lift and the breath in flows up the spine. And then the breath out flows down the spine. And you can place your vertebra one by one, all the way down to that lower back. Obviously the movement is not the same all the way along the spine, but use your imagination. A few more times, just simply rolling through and out of half bridge. And just feel how pleasant this can be. It might be the first time you've ever done a half bridge in this way, or it might be the 1000th time you've done it in this way. But you've never done it at this moment, on this day, at this point in your life, ever. This is the first time that you have ever done this half bridge in this way. Okay, so take that a couple more times, really feeling your way into that idea of or reality, really, not an idea, much more than an idea, but the reality of this is the first time. Even the next one you do, and the next one is still the first time for that particular moment, where you happen to be placing your body in this particular shape. And then when you next come down from the half bridge, you've let the spine just do its little adjustment on the breath in. Then on the breath out, bring your knees over and just rest your hands on the knees. And if you feel like rocking side to side, then do. If you don't feel like that, it doesn't feel like necessary, then don't. Just be with your center and what your body is saying it needs. And what it doesn't need is habits. We can do away with our habits, especially in a yoga practice. If you want to be truly conscious, then habits have no place in that. And then when you have become still, if you've been moving, then find your rhythm of the breath here. Simply taking the knees away. The hands can rest on the knees so they don't go so far. They just go as long to the length of your long arms. And the breath out draws the knees towards you. And that simple movement is a lovely way of connecting the breath. Knees move away, breath in. Knees fold over the body, exhale. And then try lifting the legs skywards. And take the hands and leave them on the floor. And just check your feet and your hands and your connection. Feet, hands, top of head. And then take a breath in and just gently extend the heels up to the ceiling. It's as though you were standing on your ceiling. And then breathing out, let the knees fold over the body, and then, still on that breath out, take the feet down to the floor, square them up, hips width parallel. And then your breath in, lift your hips, take your arms with you and come up into a nice long half bridge. Arms over the head. Exhaling. Slowly bring the back down, bring the arms with you. And inhaling, slide the arms until they're the width of up shoulder height. And exhaling, slowly take the knees down to one side, turning the head the other way. And inhaling, bring the knees back and the head back to the center. Coordinate that if you can, so they both land center at the same time. And exhale, take the knees to the other side and the head the opposite way. And the exhale, bring the knees back to the center and the head to the center. And then slide the hands in, bring the knees over the body, and lift the legs up to the ceiling. Taking a breath in, extend the heels away from you. Breathing out, bring the feet down to the floor. And inhaling, take the arms with you, lift up into a half bridge. Chin tucking down. Exhale the back and the arms down. Inhale the arms to shoulder height. And then with the next two breaths, you're going to take the knees on the exhale to one side, head the other way in both directions. And you come back to the center, the breath out brings the knees over the body. The breath in brings the feet up. You extend the heels. And then exhaling the feet down to the floor, square them up. And you've got the whole sequence now. Breathing in, you're in the half bridge with the arms going away behind you. The breath out brings the back down and the arms down. The breath in slides the arms to shoulder height. You can vary which direction you go in with the knees as you breathe out, turning the head the opposite way. Changing sides to start, so we develop a different habit from always doing it this way. Moving to both sides, the knees will come back on a breath in. The head will be center too. And the breath out will slide the arms in and the knees over. And the inhale will bring the legs up. Okay, so now you have the sequence. Now it's time to just develop it a little further. So you have your legs over your head, heels extended, you breathe in. Now stay there and take a breath. So you breathe out and then breathe in again. So each of these places we're going to have a moment where we take a breath at each stage of the journey. And then your feet come down to the floor as you exhale. Stay here and take a breath. And then your breath in will bring you into the half bridge. And take a breath here. Breathe out and breathe back in again. And then return on that exhale, arms with you. The breath in will slide the arms out to shoulder height. Take a moment here. Really appreciate with this breath, with the stillness of each new shape. Your knees will go down, your head will turn on a breath out. Take a breath here. Enjoying that revolving around your spine. And the breath in will come back to the center. Take a breath here. Feeling the body coming back to the center. The miasma, the shadow of the movement that remains after the movement's completed. Then to the other side. And a breath here. And back to the center. And the breath here before the knees come over. And the arms slide in. And the legs once more find themselves in the space above you. And then bringing the feet down really carefully. And even more carefully, finding what you need for relaxation. Blankets, socks, or whatever it is you need, and coming into Shavasana, moving slowly. Keep the breath flowing whilst you practice putting on of the jumper, practice putting on of the socks. There's another yoga pose. Attention to the breath. And then coming into Shavasana, being comfortable. If you want something beneath the knees, then have cushions beneath the knees to help release the back. Comfort, warm, imperative for really being able to develop consciousness of that inner body when you can just release the outer body and let it rest. And we're going to be taking a kind of a lying meditation today. So prepare yourself for that. And then we will sit up and take the same thing seated. So remember, you're finding the place which is effortlessly at rest within itself. Developing the ability to be there and to be one with that, away from the mind, which is always wanting to be busy and to get us to be doing and thinking about the next thing. And once you're settled, be as symmetrical as your body allows. Legs equally away, arms out to the side, palms up, coming equally off the shoulders, head centered, neck long with the chin slightly tucking down. So you've got lots of space for the breath to flow through those central channels. That's why the posture is so important. And then taking your mind down to your left foot. And just feel the entirety of your left foot. The toes, front and back, the spaces between them. Front of the foot, sole of the foot, the heel, back of the heel. Picture the shape of the foot. Feel the tiny movements you can make just with that left foot, just tiny, tiny movements. Feel the temperature, the texture of your clothes against the skin or the air if you're barefooted. And just feeling the whole of the left foot. Just the left foot. And then slowly draw your attention across to the right foot. And feel the right foot in its entirety. And then the small parts that make up the right foot, the toes, toenails, the pads of the toes, the spaces between, ball of the foot, top of the foot, sole of the foot, the heel, the arch, all the little bones inside the skin. When you just slightly move the toes, you can feel just that foot moving, just the right foot. And then keeping the right foot in your attention, expand your attention to encompass the left foot as well. So both feet are now fully in your field of awareness. And then slowly take your attention from the feet up to your left hand. Become aware of your left hand and the individual fingers and the thumb and the palm. And if you want to make tiny movements, you can. Tiny, tiny movements, or maybe you just imagine those movements happening. The whole of your focus is on the left hand. Skin, the muscles, palm of the hand, back of the hand, temperature on the skin or the clothes, the texture. Any way that your senses can really engage with just your left hand. And then slowly draw your attention away from your left hand and bring it fully onto your right hand. Just being fully conscious of your right hand, nothing else but your right hand. And the fingers, and the thumb, and the palm of the hand, the back of the hand, and of the intricacies of the hand within the skin, the bones, the muscles, the temperature, the inner temperature, the outer temperature. And then still keeping your right hand in your consciousness, draw that field of awareness across to join with your left hand, with both hands. And then expand your consciousness down to include both feet, 2 hands, 2 feet. And then taking your consciousness away from the hands and away from the feet, and moving slowly up to encompass your head, your face, your jaw, your eyes, your forehead, your scalp, the back of your head, and the neck and the throat, and everything above the shoulders. Feel the temperature of the air on the face, solid surface beneath the back of your head. Just very slightly press the head into that surface, just to feel how solid that is, how fine the feeling of the air on the face, the comparison between the two. And then keeping your head and the whole of your face and that softening, relaxing, resting back feeling. Expand your consciousness down through your shoulders and arms to collect your hands into this picture, and then down through the body, through the waist, through the hips, through the legs, slowly drawing your consciousness, like you're just drawing this image around you, drawing out the contours to encompass your feet, so your whole body becomes your field of awareness. And then rest in this sensation of holding the whole of yourself in your consciousness. From some kind of inner place. So you were looking out from deep within yourself. And then to slowly and carefully bring yourself up to sitting for the last 5 minutes of the session. Keep your eyes closed. Make yourself comfortable. Come into an alert but relaxed state. That principle, finding the place which is effortlessly at rest within itself. So you can be there and be one with that. And the position doesn't matter so much. You can have the legs crossed or out straight. You can sit on a chair, on a cushion. Just the long spine. And relax. That's all we need to find. And then take a scaled down version of that meditation. Become aware of your left foot. And then your right foot. And then both feet. And become aware of your left hand and your right hand. And both hands. And then both feet and both hands. and then drawing your awareness up to encompass your head. And I'll finish with a quote from Eckhart Tolle. The key is to be in a state of permanent connectedness with your inner body, to feel it at all times. This will rapidly deepen and transform your life. The more consciousness you direct into the inner body, the higher will be its vibrational frequency.